Good evening.
Good evening.
You are here courtside with Lawman,
And Carmen B.
and we are here to talk about issues that affect the public related to criminal law.
And other stuff that goes on legally related in Sacramento.
Yes.
We are trying to be an informational program, so all questions can be fielded, and we will try to answer them in an expeditious fashion. You can call in at,
916-443-5288.
you can send a chat to us, and you can send an email to either one of us, and we'll try to talk about it next week or something. All right. So, big week this time, huh, Car?
It's a pretty big week. There's a historic moment right now.
It really was. I think it was what? The vote was 53 to 47, bringing in a new Supreme Court justice. It's been a while since we've had one, a few years, I believe, or so. Probably the last of was Obama, I think.
No,
No?
you're forgetting about the rush to put in Trump's nominee, which was Amy
Roberts?
Coney.
Oh, that's right.
How could you forget Amy Coney
All right.
Barrett?
I guess I
Sitting on our-
could forget her.
That's because he's a busy man. He is in trial, so we will forgive him for
Oh, all
forgetting Justice Coney Barrett.
Coney Barrett.
Barrett Coney.
All right. Whatever it is. We got a new one, though. Okay. And this time it's historic because it happens to be a Black female.
Yes.
And like I wrote, and my feelings on that is that I hate that we have to celebrate these moments in time in history. However, I will thankfully drink from the glass of celebration at this particular time.
Yes, and I think what you're indicating is by this point in our country's history, you would have expected that an African American woman would have been nominated to the court long before now.
Correct.
But that has not been the case.
Right.
She is the first African American woman nominated, and
Yep.
she is now the first African American woman Supreme Court justice.
Correct. Serving for life.
Yes.
And we hope will make a difference because we've seen this happen. There have been 3 African Americans, Thurgood, Mr. Thomas, and now her, and history. And we know the surrounding Thurgood Marshall's appointment. There was a lot of what I feel to be controversy because he had just won Brown versus Board. He was doing a great job with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and moving across discrimination cases and things like that throughout the country. NAACP Legal Defense Fund was a powerful legal group made up of great lawyers and stuff of African American descent and not. And they were doing great things. And they took Thurgood, put him on the bench. He was quickly put in. And when he was put in, if you read stories, and I invite people to look this up, that he was kind of frustrated because he was all alone on the bench. There were decisions that were 8-1, and he was the center. And I think it wore him out in the end. And basically, it made him useless in terms of being able to fight for NAACP and other causes because of the conflict of interest that comes with sitting on the court. However,
so he could no longer advocate in
Right.
the way that he had done all those years before
exactly.
for the NAACP.
And then the second person, Clarence Thomas, who came in with the wind of controversy, so to speak, with the Anita Hill controversy. But once he got to the bench, he showed him, hey, I'm kind of conservative. And he began to be one of the most conservative justices, going against things you would think would be civil liberties that he should be voting towards. And even now, he's mired in a little controversy because of his wife and her connections with the January 6th event and extreme conservative groups.
Yes, and I would have to agree. He is more than a little conservative.
Yeah.
He is probably the most conservative justice
Right.
on the court.
Right.
And issues that affect, of course, the Supreme Court affects all citizens,
True.
but in issues that particularly affect African Americans, he does not vote in a way at all that would support
the positions that favor more equality in society.
Yes, because we're never saying favor us simply because we're African American.
That's right.
But we're saying treat us as first-class
Citizens.
citizens, treat us the same exactly as everyone else is treated.
Correct.
And that's what we don't see happening. And that's what we don't see. Again, he's not an advocate for one side or the other, but his views, he's still a human being with views, and his views align with people who are extremely conservative.
Correct. And we will probably see that when it comes to voting regarding abortion, rights of gay men and women, voting. Did I say voting rights? Voting rights even.
Yes.
We're probably going to see him do some crazy things up there. So, Carm, why don't you talk about our new Chief Justice?
Well, she's not going to be the Chief Justice.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
That would be great. But that is
right.
still going to be John Roberts. But
Yeah.
she is going to be one of 9 in making decisions. She currently is a justice.
Correct.
Federal
court.
On the
Yes.
federal appellate court. And prior to that, and one part of her career, a substantial part, she was I believe, federal public defender.
Correct.
And so that is a rarity
Right.
On the bench, because usually public defenders are not appointed to those
judicial positions.
Yes. Now, someone will say, of course they are. We just had one
here in Sacramento.
Here in Sacramento County.
Exactly.
They are, but it is few and far between. Most judge appointments come from district attorneys' offices,
State.
or from civil firms.
Right. Well, tell us about her. What are your wishes for her, Carl?
Well, and my wishes for her are the same for any judge that sits on that Supreme Court. And that is that you hold up the high ideals that are in the United States Constitution.
Right.
And that you apply them equally across the board for all citizens. And where you see that there is injustice that is not in compliance with the Constitution, that you rule in that fashion.
Correct.
Now, I will say this. I don't know why every time there is a first African American in a position of power, there is this view that somehow they are going to take over, and they're going to just do everything that benefits African Americans, and nothing that benefits the rest of the citizenry. And we know that is not the case.
Right.
People had that fear when President Obama was in office, and
that's a long-standing fear.
We did not see that happen at all.
Correct.
I would like to say hello to one of our viewers, Borkai. Happy Friday. We are happy to see you here with us.
Yes. So now, Carm, what do you think is going to happen socially with her? Because, being on the bench now as a Supreme Court justice, you're going to follow the protocol that all other justices will. You'll be assigned cases to review, cases to be heard, and things like that. Do you think there's going to be a pushback or a blowback against her in some way, shape, or form from the sitting justices who are there?
I don't believe that will be the case. I mean, no more than what you could say that they've done to any other justice in terms of if their principles
don't align with the others. Well, like a Ginsburg, right? Yes. I mean, Breyer. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Those justices. I mean, they would get a lot of heat.
Or Sonia Sotomayor.
Right.
But I don't think that there's going to be some kind of coup where they're like, her. Well, yes, we're all going to go against her. I don't see that happening. I certainly don't see Justice Sonia Sotomayor engaging in any of that. And I think that with it being the high court of the land, the justices are aware of their duties.
Yes.
And I think that they do try to act in compliance with those duties.
Now, her being a woman, and I believe that this is 3, right? Or 4, correct?
That are on the court.
That are on the court, yeah. I think she makes 4 women versus the 9, So do you think that the women
What
May,
four? I think there's only three.
you said, okay.
So
Sotomayor,
Sotomayor, Coney,
Keegan,
Coney Barrett.
and
Am I
Keegan.
missing somebody?
Um,
Oh,
yeah, what's her name? Keegan, I thought, or something like that.
I may be missing her right
All right,
now.
hold on. But here's my point. There's 9. So if there are 4 on the bench, it's almost a voting block of individuals together. So 4 can have if they join together, they can wield a lot of power as women on the bench. And I do believe it's for Keegan, isn't it?
Well, they're not going to join this. This is again that same thing, that view that, oh, well, if there's an African American on the bench, they're going to behave in this way. If there's a woman on the bench, they're going to behave in this way.
You don't think
Amy Coney Barrett is not going to be siding with anyone based on their womanhood.
Okay. Now, but when it comes to women issues, when it comes to things like that.
No, when you say women issues, are you speaking specifically of the right to choose?
Yes.
Because Amy Coney Barrett is opposed to that right.
Okay.
So she is not going to be aligning herself with other women who feel that women should have that right.
Well, and so when it comes to, let's see, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes,
see?
I did. Okay.
So it is what's her name? Keegan, right? Yeah, Elena Kagan.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it is. She will make 4.
Yes.
Out of the 5. I mean,
4 out of the 9.
Out of the 9.
Yes.
So, but I wonder, will people view that as some sort of a gang of justices now together and stuff? Like, come on, if it was 2 or 3 of us, standing.
No one's going to view the court in that way.
Okay.
Now, the court might be viewed in that way if we were looking at the court and all of a sudden we had 4 African Americans on the court. But even then, it wouldn't be 4 leaning that way because,
Correct.
Again, Justice Thomas
has shown
that his side is very conservative. So you can't make a decision about somebody's views merely based on the color of their skin.
Nor their gender.
No. That does not determine how they are going to vote on the issues.
Correct.
I would like to think that everyone who is on the court is voting based on the Constitution and constitutional principles.
And the principles of stare decisis, right? Meaning follow the laws that are in place now, and judicial review. They must review the cases that come to them, and it's not easy to get to the Supreme Court. Most of the time, there's a writ of what they call writ of certiorari, whereby you are requesting that the Supreme Court hear your case because we have to solve an issue, because the circuit courts, of which there are 13, and those are federal circuits that divide up the United States. The circuit courts may disagree on certain federal legal issues. And when they do, then that case is ripe for the Supreme Court to give an opinion. We've seen this happen when it came to marriage. We see it happening when it comes to huge issues like what will be abortion, what will be voting rights, and things like that, that these circuit courts may have opinions. And when they differ across the United States, then the Supreme Court is called upon to tell us what is right and what is wrong, or what is the moral direction this country will move in. And we've seen that when it comes to Jim Crow laws, right? Supreme Court put in Jim Crow. Supreme Court said that's just fine and dandy. And then they had to say, well, we don't want to do that anymore. Now, they were forced to probably do it, and you can make great arguments that they had to do it in order to keep the peace in the country, but they still did it. So I think the way to look at the Supreme Court is they are sort of the boss of bosses when it comes to the law. They are the final word when it comes to the law. In fact, what's that famous case? Marbury versus Madison, right? Where it says, hey, if there's a dispute in federal law, the Supreme Court of the United States, otherwise known as SCOTUS, will make the decision upon that. So I look forward to seeing how things start playing out. And I would hope that people also start paying attention to what's going to happen when cases get into the Supreme Court.
Well, again, this is another reason why we encourage our viewers and all citizens to vote,
Right.
because she had to be nominated for this position, and then the senators had to vote on her confirmation.
Correct.
If
And
you
I'll tell
don't
you,
vote,
yeah,
then you have no control over
over
what
the
senators are in
senators.
office, and you
That's
could
right.
end up with senators who vote against her, and enough that that their vote would have been able
Right.
to prevent her from becoming a Supreme Court justice. But luckily here, that was not the case.
But by 3 votes
And
out of 50.
yes, and that is because
So,
there were Republicans
that's right.
who are, who I would say are not just following the party line, but they are looking at what is really best for this country. And so when people talk about how they love the United States, but they're not doing the things what is best for this country as a whole, I have to question
Right.
that love for the United States, that
Right.
so-called patriotism, if it isn't doing what is best for everyone in this country.
We say it's the greater good for the greater amount of people. And that's the way the law and all of morality in our state should work. Is we got to do what's good for everyone. And it's hard to do, but that's the struggle of a democracy, is trying to do the best thing for everybody.
Yes.
And being inclusive. And inclusive have now turned into diversifying and things like that. We use all these words because we want representation all the way around. And that's the key to the democracy, is the representation.
And if we lived in a perfect world, that
Right.
wouldn't matter, because
Right.
people wouldn't be, that wouldn't be something that was considered to hold someone out. And that's
Exactly.
what I saw the Republicans trying to do.
Right.
Despite her education, despite the fact that she is extremely overqualified for this
Yeah.
position, them still questioning her. And to me, the questioning was based on her race,
Right.
because we don't see those kinds of questions when it is in particular a white male
Right.
in place for the position.
So congrats to her.
Yes.
And
And I
hopefully,
am very
yeah.
happy to say, and for my niece, my young niece Emma, to be able to see an African American woman in that place on that Supreme Court.
Beautiful. All right. So, yay. All right. Now we'll turn to a more somber subject, so to speak, but a realistic one. We know what happens to us. Oh,
yes. Before we get to that, because I think you were
Yes.
going to talk about the local issue.
yes.
I don't know if you saw on the news, you may recall that there was, with the whole issue with Trump and saying that the election had been stolen from him,
Okay.
there were people in Michigan, a group of men in Michigan, who had planned to kidnap the Michigan
Yes.
governor
Yes.
and torture her, or maybe
Right.
even kill her.
Yes.
They had actually gone so far as to case, I believe, one of her homes. I can't
Yes.
recall now if it was her
No, they had
actual
planned
home
it.
or
Yeah.
her vacation home. Well, those the 4 men have gone to trial,
Yes.
and the jury acquitted
Oh.
2 of them and hung on the other 2.
Oh my
Despite
God.
the fact that there were audio recordings, that there were text
Oh my
messages,
God.
that there was actual, and I think the argument
Ooh.
was, oh, they're just exercising their First Amendment right to say what they felt about the election. But then driving by and casing her house. How many of your clients, where there's been an incident and they can prove that your client cased the house, has that been used to say that is clear evidence of what your intent was? And so to
Oh my
me,
goodness.
this again goes to show that we are still in an America where there are 2 justice systems.
Yeah.
And this was a federal jury.
Yeah.
But again, it was a federal jury in Michigan.
Right.
And there are a lot of conservative people in
That's
Michigan.
right.
And so I think what happened was they got
Not too many of
conservative
us
people
are
on
yeah.
that jury
Wow.
who said, we don't care what you show us,
Wow.
we're not going to convict these men.
Right.
And so it's the same kind of thing
Yes.
that we would see
Yes.
back when people would kill or hang an African American,
Yeah.
and they would know who did it, and either one, not file charges, or
Right.
file charges, but the jury would still just let
acquit
them go.
Yeah. I mean, Emmett Till is probably one of the most famous ones, but okay. So that's kind of sadder than anything in a way, because it may show that And let's put it, come on, we're trial lawyers. Okay. We know, look, it really depends on the facts that are there and things like that. And I didn't do the trial and all that. But
I know that I have seen people get convicted on less
unless,
evidence.
okay, yeah, I ain't gonna disagree with that. It's just sad every time such a thing raises its head, because now you got to look at it as, well, what was more there? Is it because of their conservative views? Is it because we're going to give them a pass? Because it wasn't a group of black guys doing it.
We have a comment from Lance Casey
Oh,
saying a typical jury verdict for them.
yes. And how you doing, Lance? Good to see you, man.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, let's talk about Sacramento,
All right.
our home, our state. As you know, last Saturday late night,
Saturday night,
early
Sunday
Sunday
morning.
morning, we had a shooting in downtown Sacramento.
3 blocks from where we current three, I
Two
guess
from
three and
me.
a half,
Yes.
3.5 blocks from where we currently sit.
Yes. It seems it became it becomes huge national news because of the lives lost, and that is not to be taken lightly. But I'm a person who feels like every life lost, wasted, is bad. Everyone is. And now I think what we've got to talk about, Carm, is what to do from here. Because what we saw were politicians getting on TV, crying, being upset, and saying, we want to do something about gun control. We want to take guns off the streets. And I'm going to go anywhere, anyhow, meet with whoever in order to get this done.
But here's what we need to talk about. It's my understanding that California has the strictest gun laws in the nation.
Right.
And so gun laws are not going to prevent these kind of incidents from happening.
Correct.
From my understanding, this was not, as it was initially advertised, a mass shooting, which to me, in my mind, means someone who takes their gun and then they're just killing as many people as they possibly can.
Just randomly for whatever reason they have in their mind.
Such as what we saw happen with the shooting in Vegas, or the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. This was not that. Now, there were innocent lives that were lost.
Yes.
And there were innocent people who were shot and who were severely injured.
Correct.
But more gun laws is not the answer. The answer is investment into communities, jobs in communities, jobs that pay a living wage. If people are employed, you are not going to see this kind of activity. And this, I believe, was an incident that resulted after a nightclub. And so it's likely an argument that started between two people or
factions,
more.
Right, two factions.
And then someone started the gunplay, which likely, my guess is going to be, having been at a club, everybody probably had been drinking. And guns and alcohol and tempers never mix. But that's not going to be fixed by additional gun legislation. So that is not what we need. We don't need funds being wasted on additional gun legislation, because we have all the gun legislation right now in the world, and it has not stopped these incidents from happening.
That's right.
And young men need to be able to feel safe in their community. And if they don't feel safe in their community, if they don't feel protected by law enforcement, they may feel like they have to protect themselves. And if they feel that way, that is going to result in them carrying firearms.
Now, I have thought about this throughout the week, and I want to throw a 5-minute argument. I want to argue with you on this, Carm. Okay, I want to throw this point out. Okay, and it's a two-part. The first part is, we have a Second Amendment of the Constitution that is supposed to allow us to be armed, to have arms. Now, we know, though, the Second Amendment of the Constitution was written at a time when a militia force was necessary because of the nature of the country being so young. So they did not want people overthrowing the government right away. So they wanted to be able to put together militias that could help the government. Okay, so that's where that came from. We also know when the 13th Amendment was passed that it kept slavery in. So it was far thinking ahead that, well, if we imprison people, we can enslave them. The Second Amendment has never been looked at again to know that we don't need well-armed militias. If our militias would be our military, our police forces, and things like that. Now, what had happens is now regular citizens can arm themselves with different types of weapons, and they claim it's for self-defense. So the only legislation I think you could possibly do at this point is to require or at least restrict gun ownership to those with revolvers only, because revolvers are only going to fire about 6 shots. Some may have 1, 2 may have 7, but that's all they're going to fire is 6 shots. And if you're going to protect your home or protect yourself, why do you need 30? Why do you need 2 or 3 rifles that fire 30 rounds apiece? Why do you need 4 or 5 40 cals that fires 16, 18 in the clip? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm sitting next to a gun nut. Okay. so I want her, I'm playing, but she's a gun, but she will say, this is a terrible idea, Keith. But I'm saying this, look, you can be well armed with a revolver. If you use the revolver for the purpose that we have visioned you to do it, protect your home with a revolver. Because we don't have open carry, so why carry it around on the streets? That's still illegal. But all you need are revos. And if everybody had revos, at least we would not have 30 people, 15 people, 10 people shot at the same time from one gun.
And
Go.
Unfortunately, that is not true, because anybody who is trained with a weapon can load and unload quickly enough to shoot as many people as they want to shoot.
So you're saying
reloaders
and revolvers.
Yeah, let me
ban them.
So let me start that.
Ban speed loaders.
Let me start there.
Ban speed loaders too.
And the other reason is the purpose of a weapon is to send a projectile downrange.
That's right.
Sometimes it may be what it is sending downrange may be a human who is posing a threat to you.
There you go.
But that is not the only reason for having guns.
Really?
People who hunt want to use guns.
With revolvers?
No, I'm saying you're the one who limited to revolvers.
That's
revolvers.
If you're
I'm
hunting,
in disagreement that we
long rifles, you can have them for hunting. There you go.
That doesn't fix the problem.
Yes, it does. I gave you your exemption.
Are you going to let me speak, or are you going to? I allowed you to give your argument.
I told you this is an argument.
You're not going to give me an exemption.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to have all the guns that I possibly want to have.
Long rifles.
And the reason being, every gun that there is out there that exists, I should be allowed to have it.
ARs.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because should the people on January 6th decide that it is time for a second civil war, I want to be prepared to defend my family. And we can look at what is happening right now in Ukraine and know that the citizenry needed to be armed to help repel the attack that they are getting from the Russians. And in fact, the president of Ukraine called on the people you're going to have to do whatever you can to help us repel these Russians, because we don't have enough troops. So should the January 6th people decide that they are ready for the civil war, I want to be prepared to keep my country the country that it is. And that is a free country with rights that are protected by the Constitution.
I will argue this. Ukraine, brand new country. They need a militia because they don't have gun laws and the guns spread all over the place. Okay. So Ukraine is not a perfect example to use because we have National Guard, military, police in order to stop these uprisals and things like that may happen. Now, if you say you want all these weapons to stop these people never busted down your door. If somebody's busting down my door, all I need is a Revo to pop them 6 times. Okay. So why do I need rifles and things?
Because perhaps you didn't see what I saw on January 6th and the number of people that were coming into the Capitol. Into the Capitol building.
That's right. And if we had let our National Guard go crazy on them.
You're talking over me. So if you have one gun, let's say 30 people decide they're going to take your house. Mr. Staten only has one gun. Guess what's happening? Mr. Staten may get off 6 shots, 3 of which he ain't going to hit anybody. And then his house is going to belong to those people who are coming in and saying, you know what, this is the new America. So that is the reason.
Wait, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's likely that 30 people are going to bust into my house.
Oh, well, that's good that you don't think that it's good that you don't think that it's likely.
Not January 6th,
I'm going to prepare for what might happen.
War? Are we all having war on the street? Is that what it's going to be?
I hope that it never comes to that, but
Me neither.
Want to be prepared should that happen. We are actually out of time, but I did want to mention that there is a campaign kickoff for Alana Matthews for District Attorney here in Sacramento County. It is happening tomorrow, April 9th at 11 a.m. at 5503 58th Street, Sacramento, California. Again, 5503 58th Street, Sacramento, California is her campaign kickoff. She will be present, as will the California State Treasurer, and the Sacramento City Council member, as well as numerous others who support her.
And we support her wholeheartedly.
Yes, we do.
Yes, and I see from our last 2 comments, it seems to be cops or ex-cops are the ones who say I'm crazy. I guess I'll see you in the war.
So Lance Casey says exactly, Carmen. He sees exactly what I'm talking about. We hope it never gets to that, but if it does, we want to be ready. And then Moran Tactical says, good answers, Carmen. The lawman is cray.
So they'll be protecting me, apparently. I'm going to come run to your house.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, no, you don't want me to have no guns. You got to go out there with the zombies.
I'll bring my guns with me when I come to your house. I'm going to need some food.
Come on, you're welcome. You are welcome, but I will remind you. But again, we would ask that you share our channel with your friends and family. We answer questions related to criminal law issues.
We're going to debate issues if we have to.
We are. And even when Lawman is acting like he disagrees with me, you know he really does. We are here every Friday at 6:30 p.m.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
6 o'clock.
I've been ahead all day. We're here every Friday from 6, starting at 6 live until 6:30 p.m.
Correct.
Here courtside with Lawman
and Carmen B.
Please join us.
And we thank you so much for hanging in there. Hey, everybody go out and be safe, please.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.